Okay, so I just started recording, and today we're going to read the rules book written by Alan Fide and Sherry Schneider. And specifically, we're reading rule number 9, how to act on dates 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to read the chapter, and later we are going to discuss a little bit and talk a little bit about this specific chapter. All right, Karina, you can start reading.
Okay, how to act on dates one, two, and three. If you're anything like us, you've thought a lot about how much the two of you have in common before he even arrives to pick you up, and you've named the children before he says hello. This type of seemingly innocuous daydreaming before the date is dangerous, possibly the worst thing you can do, short of professing love to him during dessert. This kind of fantasizing leads to unfulfilled longing and to unrealistic expectations of romance and passion that makes you prone to say foolish things like, I have I have two tickets to a concert after the first date. Yes, you can reciprocate, but much later. See rule number 4. If at all possible, don't think of him before he arrives. It isn't necessary for the first 3 dates. Be busy right up until the minute he buzzes you from downstairs. Don't have him come up to your apartment on the first date. Preferably meet him in the lobby of your apartment building or at a restaurant. Rules girls play it safe. On these 3 dates, don't tell him about your day as if you've known each other for years, thinking that it will bring you closer. Don't be too serious, controlling, or wifey. Don't mention the M word, not even to mention that your brother recently got married. Remember that you're a creature unlike any other beautiful woman inside and out. So don't feel that you have to fit in a love seminar or last-minute therapy session to be in good form. You should feel no pressure whatsoever. In fact, all you really have to do on the first 3 dates is show up, relax, pretend you're an actress making a cameo appearance in a movie. Reread rule number 1, be a creature unlike any other. Be sweet and light. Laugh at his jokes, but don't try too hard. Smile a lot and don't feel obligated to fill up the lulls in the conversation. In general, let him do all the work. Pick you up, pick the restaurant, open the door, and pull out your chair. Act nonchalantly at all times, as if you're always on dates and it's nothing out of the ordinary, even if you haven't had a date in years. If you have to think about something, think about your date with another man that week. You should always try to date other people so that you never get hung up on one man and at any time.
End the date first. See rule number 11, especially if you like him. Glance at your watch after 2 hours for a drink date or 3 or 4 hours for a dinner date. Simply sigh and say, gee, this was really great, but I've got a really big date tomorrow. Don't say what it is that you're doing tomorrow. At the end of the first date, you can accept a light peck on the cheek or lips, even though you're dying to do more. Don't invite him up to your place at the end of the first date. After all, he's still a stranger at this point. He should only see the lobby of your apartment building. This is both for safety and the rules. By not letting him into your apartment or agreeing to go to his, you drastically reduce your chances of any sort of problem occurring. If you meet somebody at the bar or party, the same rules applies. Don't get into his car for any reason, or you might end up in his trunk. Don't invite him to go to your apartment or go to his that night. It's crazy world out there. Play it safe. On the second date, use your judgment. If you feel comfortable with this man, he can pick you up at your apartment and you can invite him up for a drink at the end of the night. But when in doubt, meet him at the lobby of your building and say goodnight there as well. Rules, girls, don't take chances. We know we're asking you to go against your feelings here, but you want to get married, don't you? Anyone can get a one night stand. In summary, the first 3 dates should be like being and nothingness. Dress nice, be nice, goodbye, and go home. Not too much feeling investment or heart. You're probably wondering how long you can keep up this act, right? Don't worry, it gets easier. All right, so we're at the end of the chapter for the rule number 9, and I I love this chapter. I think I'm just gonna share a few thoughts. There's so much to talk about it, but just the last part that I read was about not getting into a car of a guy, especially on the first date. And if and I remember actually have done this when I was a teenager and I had no idea what was dating about and how to date, I remember that some guys were offering to pick me up. You know, guys that I met at parties, I've never met them before, or guys I even met on the internet, you know, like chat rooms. Like, I don't know, 15 years
Yeah.
ago, it was just chat rooms, if anyone remembers that. There were no Facebook apps or anything like Instagram. It was even more dangerous because you had absolutely no identity behind a person's screen name. It was nothing. It was not even a picture. And I remember I was doing this and I think, oh my God, I had some sort of an angel keeping me safe because it was crazy. Now I think back then,
Yeah.
why have I done this? I don't know if Karina, if you had any similar dumb thing that you've done when you were younger.
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. There was one time, even when I started learning the rules, but wasn't good at it, and was it's really stupid, but like was too shy to say, or not shy, but like too afraid to hurt the guy's feelings. But we were set up on a blind date through a matchmaker, and when we got there, the restaurant was closed. So he's like, "Well, do you, I know what place what we should go to, and you want to get in my car?" And I did. And then I thought about it. I was like, that was so stupid. Like, even though he was vetted by a matchmaker, you never know. Like, I should have just taken my own car, but I guess I didn't build that muscle. You know what I mean? That muscle of like confidence. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it was, I look back and I'm like, Jesus, sometimes it's easy to get into situations you think you never would. I mean, the guy was okay. He didn't do anything. It was just a dud of a date. But still, you should never really get in a car with a guy you don't know, even if it's vetted through a matchmaker.
yeah. I agree with you.
Because
It's I think it's more safe, of course, if you have a matchmaker and a person probably has filled out some sort of an application. So it's not like a totally, you know, a nobody out of nowhere. It's there is some information about him, pretty sure. I mean, I think you it was okay-ish, I guess.
yeah,
But it really depends. If you feel like he's an unsafe guy, I mean, for whatever reason your gut feeling is telling you this, it's probably not a good thing.
yeah,
Um,
and I when I worked as a matchmaker, and I'm still in, I do some work with matchmakers. I mean, they're not perfect. I can tell you that. Sometimes they just are so happy to find a great eligible guy that they don't do the due diligence. So I've seen cases where they've messed up. So
right, right, right. I mean, there's so
yeah.
much in this rule number 9. I don't even know how to where to start. I think when I first read the rules, this particular chapter, I felt like was the hardest to master because I just did not understand. I did not understand fully where, how exactly is this going. But basically, what it says, you should just basically you're on a date with a guy, you keep yourself safe because you're not going to his apartment, you're not inviting him to yours, and you're relaxed. You don't think about him as a potential, y- it's hard to do though if you like
I
a
was
guy and you're single for a while. You're like, oh my God, how am I supposed to
that's
like act like I don't care? Basically you act like
that's
you don't care.
that's the hardest thing. That I wrote that down because that was the hardest thing for me. Even now, after doing the rules for so long and being good at it, it's the hardest thing because when you're really attracted to someone, not to, and you haven't met anyone like them in a while, it's the hardest thing to like pretend it's nothing for the first 3 dates. You know what I mean? It's hard to turn your emotions off. Um, so
Also another
still find it difficult.
it's really difficult. Also, what I did misunderstood in the beginning, I don't know where was exactly this phrase, but it's you have to be light and breezy. Oh my God, this light and breezy thing is, by the way, the hardest thing to do because I don't have this naturally. I'm like I'm having
Yeah.
this instead. I mean, okay, I have this I mean this stare and this resting bee face, so if I may call it that way. So being light and breezy is very, very hard for me. I mean, some girls are just naturally this like light and they're sunshine and they're happy and they're either shining from the inside out. And for me, it's so much work. I guess I have to be in the perfect state of mind in that moment. I have to be relaxed. I have to be not hungry. I have to be, pumped up, happy, good weather. I mean, there are so many things have to come together for me to be light and breezy. I don't know how it is for anyone else. For me, it's really hard. And so and men are really, really you don't have to be the prettiest girl, but like this light and breeziness is what is truly attractive to anyone. Even when I see a light and breezy woman on somewhere, I think she kind of got it. Like she knows how to act light and breezy. And I don't even think she's the most pretty beautiful woman in the world. But her husband is looking at her with those adoring eyes. So I mean, I think that's important message in there.
Yeah, definitely. That's a big, it's huge. It's huge. It's huge in dating and marriage. Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of guys just don't feel comfortable with people. A lot of women, they don't want to feel like they're being yelled at by their mother, or even it can even be subtle though. You know what I mean? If you're not smiling, or so if you're passive aggressive, they can sense it.
You know what? It's funny you just said if you don't smile. I remember when I was at the rules seminar. Um, so if anyone has watched it or had listened to you, the rules seminar from Boca Raton, which was in 2017,
Yeah.
16, I'm not sure. So I remember my question was, I was very new to the rules. I think I've done that like 6 months or so, and I went to the seminar. Ellen and Sherry were there, and I asked him this first question. I was like, "How do I smile? Because I feel like I'm faking it, and I feel like men sense it that I'm faking it, and they feel like uncomfortable." And I don't know who was that, Sherry or Ellen, was like, "What are you talking about? They have no idea. They don't care."
Yeah, that's true.
So
I mean, it's
they
true they
can
don't
fake it basically. Yeah.
if they think you're pretty, they don't care if you're smiling or not. But I also think that light and breezy is a big deal. Um, and part of that is smiling. But especially if you're like struggling with it, like some women are very controlling. Some rules women are controlling. Like I know rules women who are controlling, and they don't see it, but they just try to control the date. And that's a bad thing.
What do you mean by controlling the day? Give me some examples, please.
Yeah, sorry. I'm like kind of moving on. I'm trying to make an example about smiling, but like it's complicated because different people do the rules different ways. Um, so yeah, controlling like the maybe there'll be the guy will set up a date. I'm trying to think now. All right, so a guy will set up a date at a coffee shop, and he's sitting down somewhere. She walks in. She doesn't like where he's sitting, so she'll go over there and instead of sitting down, she'll say, "Hey,
Yeah.
do you want to move over to these seats?" Um, and that's really not that's a little controlling because you kind of want to be happy with what he picked. It's just a little bit of masculine energy. It's subtle, and if you're not into the rules or don't get how men think, you'll think, "Oh, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that." Like women do, I know through non-rules groups do this all the time. They maneuver
Yeah, I know
situations.
exactly what you mean. Actually, actually, that's what I don't do. I mean, since I am, trained by the rules, I let the guy always decide where we sit because he usually will say politely or ask you politely where you want to sit.
Yeah.
I usually say, "Hey, I don't mind either, inside or outside. I don't mind either way." or if it's a, if there's an option, if I say, oh, I think any place, any table looks okay here. So like I give him the option to lead. I keep on throwing the ball into his court in a gentle way. Since we are on a date already, so I'm trying to be like light and breezy by letting him make decisions. So we don't push exactly like you said. That's actually a biggie thing. I actually done this mistake so many times before the rules. I was the seat picker. I was like, I want this table. And I felt like such a princess that I was able to pick,
Yeah.
because I got this sort of like,
Yeah.
I get what I want. I had this feeling like in being in control and being pampered by everyone around me. But it did me a disservice by, taking away his job to court, basically. I thought I'm being princessy picking the table, but but it didn't really serve me in that sense.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly.
There's just so many, right?
It-
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's got to pick it. Yeah, he's got to pick it. And you know what? One thing that you find when they do pick, see, this is great. When so if you go on a date with a guy and he picks the comfortable seat facing the good view. A lot of restaurants have one comfortable booth seat, and then they on the opposite end, it's usually an uncomfortable chair. It's not like that at all restaurants, but a lot of restaurants have that. I don't know if you've seen that, but I know we're in Connecticut and New York. There's always a comfortable seat that has a good view. It's the better seat on a date. And if you see the guy picking that seat and making you sit on the uncomfortable seat with the bad view, it's really kind of bad manners. But it's good to know that he picks that seat that's comfortable for him, not for you. Like he's not thinking about you. The
Yeah,
good guy,
it's a
the
red
good guys
flag,
really,
right?
the good guys really know to offer you the comfortable seat. And I think I told you this before, but like when in New Canaan, which is a fancy part of Connecticut, I was out on a date, and every single a lot of the men there are very I don't know what quality they are, but at least they're trained in being polite and they know better. All their wives were sitting on the comfortable seat, and they were sitting on the opposite seat, which is uncomfortable, and it didn't have a view. So they gave their wives, it's just known there, especially there. But then you once in a while you'll see a bore. And to be honest, I had a date who did that once, pre-rules, and I don't think it bothered me as much, but now that kind of thing really bothers me.
Yeah, yes, I agree. I remember you told me something about that. Yes, but it's just bad manners. Some girl will might say, "Oh, well, he just doesn't know it better." And maybe it's true, maybe he really doesn't know it better.
Yeah.
But honestly, if this is a comfortable seat and another one is just in a hard chair or whatever, I mean, it's amongst girlfriends, it's maybe okay, but it's not men natural. It's a natural thing, offering you something that is better.
Yeah, or they say
But
which
yeah,
where would you want to sit? Because maybe there's a reason. Like, yeah, they're like, sometimes they'll be like, well, which seat do you want? Um,
yeah, I mean that's okay, right? So you just pick.
yeah, yeah, and I always go for the good seat now. But um, one funny story I had, I think I may have told you this with there was a guy that I was dating, and it was on Valentine's Day. He took me to see Casablanca, which was like my favorite movie. And then after we went to a restaurant that the theme it was called Casablanca, and there was a mural that had Casablanca on it. Okay, so the booth though wasn't facing the mural, and the bench was facing the mural. But still, I knew I wanted the comfortable seat, so I just went over to the comfortable seat. I had been dating the guy for a while, and then he kept saying, "Don't you want the other side?" And I started getting annoyed to myself because the guy was a bit of a buyer beware. And I remember being really annoyed. I'm like, I think he just wants the comfortable seat because he doesn't feel comfortable. comfortable in the chair. And that was just one of, and maybe I was wrong, but I think that was what it was. And then I asked Ellen and Sherry about it afterward, and they were trying to give him credit. They're like, no, he probably just wanted you to see the mural. Because sometimes they see the best in the guys, until they really prove that they're bad. Um, so I'm not so sure though. In looking back on that, the guy was a bit of a bore. I really think he wanted the comfortable seat because he was not comfortable in that chair. I don't know. What do you
Oh my
think?
God, it's so ridiculous. Yeah, it's hard to judge, you know. But the thing is, like the way that he pushed it on you, say you picked already a seat, why wouldn't he just go with it? Whatever, you picked it, whether he thinks it's good for you or bad for you, whatever his intentions were, like why don't you just leave her alone? Like I just don't
Yeah,
get that
yeah,
point. And I think that's why it's already buyer beware when he's trying to control like what you already decided on. I mean, it's just weird. It's just weird to me. I think there's another thing that I just remembered. It actually happened to me not too long ago, and I discussed this in the groups. Because I felt like I was sure, and in the end, I was pretty much correct and with with my opinion about this. So I had a date with a guy, first date, very first date, date zero, and we're sitting at the in front of the restaurant to be let in. And back then, like 2 months ago, there were still sort of restrictions and regarding the pandemic, and we were
yeah.
required to show our vaccination cards. So it took him, so he pulled out his vaccination card first and showed to the
Oh, right.
hostess, which is okay. And then it took me a little bit longer because I had my handbag and my gloves to take off, and it took me like a minute, I don't know, to take out and show it to her. And then I wanted to disinfect my hands. So I was still outside while he was already inside of the restaurant, being led by the other hostess to the table without waiting for me. And I was
Yep.
like, oh my God, is this really happening? Is he not waiting for me? He was already
Yep.
halfway into the restaurant. Like the hostess was just like taking him in because I mean, she doesn't care, obviously. She has whatever, she has something else on the mind. But like I'm still standing outside, and I remember there was an elderly couple looking at me with pity, thinking,
They
oh my God, this
did.
poor girl has to. Yeah, I'm not sure, I might
'Cause
just have
they know
this
better.
imagination,
They
but
know better. Oh,
yeah, and I was like, oh my God, do I deserve to be treated like that? But I was like, okay, I'm still gonna go with the date. And the date itself was okay. We had a really nice conversation. He was very smart, so he was not a dumb person, and he was polite the entire time actually during the date. But this one thing showed me that he is not looking out for me or my safety. And I mean, that's a red flag. When a guy is not
right.
naturally protective of you, is naturally thinking of your safety and comfort, he's not right for you. It's just not on his mind. And that
Right.
that is really a red flag. I mean, if you're new to the roles, if you're new in dating, maybe you're young or maybe you haven't dated for a long time and you just don't know what's going on. I mean, that I wasn't experienced it ever in my life before, so I didn't know what to look out for. Maybe it happened to me before, I just don't remember because I was not paying attention. And now you have to pay attention to these little things. I mean,
Right.
sure, it's nice. It's nice if he pulls out the chair and takes your jacket. But it's not the worst thing in the world. I think worst would be I had another date before that a long time ago, and I remember the guy almost smacked the door in front of my face. So he
Oh
walks
my
in the
god.
first. I remember that. Yeah, believe me. He walks in the first, and we had like a coffee date or something, and it was a swinging door, and he wouldn't even hold it, and the door just slams on me, and I was like, oh my God, am I going through this? And I actually went through with the date just to like just to see what's gonna happen next, and it was the most boring date ever. He then noticed I was
Oh my
bored.
god.
and was like, do you want to go clubbing? Okay, so that was it. So I had a fair share of like terrible, terribly, like it. Okay, I'm finished.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I know some guys are just bores and they're buyer bewares. Um, to stay away from.
I mean, there's so many things
The
to
other,
pay attention. I'm sorry. I
no,
just wanted to finish my thought. There are so many things that we need to pay attention in order to be the best of ourselves for the date, for the guy, so that, we have a great time. But then things like that happen, and you are thrown for the loop and think, okay, I'm trying to be the best version of myself, but I just can't if I'm being treated that way. And I guess it's yeah, I don't know how do you deal with that if you're being treated poorly and you cannot be your best self anymore, and it happens quickly. There's so many bad dates out there.
yeah, yeah. No, I know. I've, God, I don't know. I've been there too. I remember going to a Starbucks and the guy bought his own coffee and didn't offer me my own coffee. I was like, you know what? I don't
Oh
even really want
no.
a coffee. I'm not going to go up and buy my own, right? And I was pissed. I was ready to leave. But then we started talking, and we had some things in common through work, and it was some of the stuff he was talking about was interesting. So I stuck it out, but I really was like seething underneath. I was like, I can't stand this person. Like had some interesting things to say about a crime. This is when I was a reporter. It was about he knew the some of the criminals. They were wealthy criminals, but they were an interesting. It was an interesting case. So he had like inside knowledge about them. So that's like the only reason I stayed. But I was seething. I'm like, this guy is just very I don't know. Something is lacking. Like uh and he wasn't there to impress me, he just seemed very cheap and
Exactly.
stingy. Whether or not
Exactly.
he
That just Yeah.
was rich or not, I don't know what his deal was. So then I did end it. I finally did end it. I couldn't. I just and I could. And you know what? I wasn't light and breezy. I know I could. He could tell because even afterward, he said. I forgot what he said. I think he said I sense there's nothing there. I think he tried to like ask me what was wrong, but I just said forget. I ignored him. I didn't want to
Couldn't
get
you
into a
really
fight. You know
tell
what I
that
mean?
he wasn't offering you to buy a simple cup of coffee? I cannot believe this. I mean, we're talking about grown-up people here. Like,
I know.
you and I are not even in our 20s anymore, and these are grown-up men that we're dating or went on
I
dates
know.
with.
And
Like, not offering you a cup of coffee,
these
like,
are
or
men.
slamming the door on
Yeah.
me, or I mean, and then you're there trying to do the rules and be the best version of yourself. You're dressed up and you're trying to be like light and breezy, but then this stuff happens. It happens, and you think, was he raised
Well,
poorly
they
by his family, or
yeah, maybe,
yeah?
but also, you know what? Yeah, they're raised poorly. They're, um, forgot what I was gonna say. I had a good point. Damn it. Yeah, they're definitely raised poorly. I think that's part of it. But the thing that really ticks me off is they, um, they ask you out. So like there's
Right.
a guy that I was seeing that you know the whole situation. And we're friends, but and I did discuss, we're friends, so I should split the meal with him. He's like, yeah, but I'm always asking you out. Like, this guy's a decent guy. It's just we're just friends though. I'm
All
not
right.
attracted to him.
Yeah, right.
But a decent guy, I mean, you know the situation, the deeper situation, but I don't want to get into it too much here. But he even said, he's like, yeah, but I'm the one always asking you out. And it's true.
Exactly.
I am not gonna ask him out ever, like even as a friend, because that's just, you know, I'm dating others, trying to date others and trying to find Mr. Right. But like, I mean, what I'm my point is he's a decent guy and he even knows. So my point with the coffee guy, like he's the guy that he asked me out. When you ask someone out, you pay, but I guess some guys just don't get it. Um,
Yeah, and
yeah.
that's
I
part
mean,
of the
maybe
rules. It's not really in the book. They don't really talk about like the
they
bad
are
stuff. Like,
spoiled.
hello?
Yeah. Um, I think maybe more like hopefully we'll do more readings of all the other like their other books. They probably get into it a little bit more, and then in
Mhm.
in the courses they get into it a little bit more, and then in consultations, like I've I've talked to them a million times about situations, and then they have some good responses.
Oh, by the
You
way,
know,
there's another thing that I
but
wanted
some
to talk
guys are.
about with you. The very last bits
Yep.
of the paragraph were suggesting if you feel safe with him, you can actually invite him for a cup of coffee on a second date. So I think it's still a little bit a
Yeah,
lot
that's
too
interesting.
early. Even though the book says that you can, I wouldn't do that. If this is an online dating
I
guy from an
know.
app,
I
I wouldn't do
know.
that. It's too early. So
I
what do you think?
know. You know what? And it's tricky because, you know, I was thinking back because I'm really super careful, but on the other hand, I think sometimes instincts are okay, but I don't know. Some women are also bad at with their instincts, so with their gut, like they think they have good gut instincts, but then they get in trouble. So I, I still think, yeah, I
Exactly.
agree with you. It's better to be safe for 3 dates. But I have to say, if there was one time, actually, this was the Casablanca guy, and the one I was just telling you about, the Boorish one, who had his good qualities, obviously, or else I wouldn't have dated him for so long. But he, our first date was near where I work. We had a few things in common. Like he knew people that I knew through work. I knew people he knew. We had a quick, like, I was in the middle of work. We had a quick bite to eat. Actually, I just wanted to have like a drink, but he's like, he just bought me like an appetizer, salad, whatever. And then I had to really go back to work. So it was kind of good that I had an really good excuse and he knew it. And he's like, "Do you want me to drive you back?" So this is unusual for me. Um, and I let him drive me back. So I think back to that and I'm like, wow, I don't think I would ever advise a client to do that. But
Yeah.
in that situation though, I did it. And I felt, but the thing is I felt super safe because we knew a lot of the same people. Still, like looking back, I don't know if I should have done it, you know?
I think you're right. It's sometimes you really do feel safe after a couple dates. I'm not saying the second date because I'm still against it.
Yeah.
A second date is
Yeah.
okay to invite him for a coffee. By the way, I'm still wondering what I mean, okay. But anyway, if you know him already, if this is an old friend who finally asked you out, whatever reason, or was married before, had a girlfriend, now you're dating, and this is your second date, sure, invite him like up to your apartment, whatever. But if this is an online guy, and most people do date online right now during those times,
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Right.
It's very
Right.
important that we say that this book is, yes, it's not wrong, but if this is an online guy, do not invite him up or go to his apartment even on a second
Yeah.
date, and not even if you feel safe and you feel like, oh, you've known this person forever, or you googled him on the internet and found his, I don't know, profile somewhere on social media. It doesn't matter. Do not go. He can be crazy, and you can be his first victim. And I've done these mistakes, and now I
Yeah.
think back and I'm like, oh my God, I was just lucky. But you know, you might be
Yeah.
lucky too, but somebody else might not. And why take chances? So now
Yeah.
I'm.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I feel like I have good instincts. But who knows, you know? Sometimes people fool you. So it worked out with me. But yeah, I kind of wouldn't advise a client just because you never know.
Actually, there's one
And
more thing that I wanted to. Oh, sorry.
maybe some people have worse. Oh no,
Yeah.
some people just have worse instincts than others. Some people really do, and
Yeah.
they're a little
It's
too
true.
trusting. And I'm not trusting, so I guess I worked it out in my mind that there were so many people
Mhm.
we knew that it
Yeah,
probably would have been
I think in
okay.
that case it
And
was
it
fine
did turn
actually.
out
I think you didn't do, yeah, you didn't do it wrong. I think you were
it turned
fine
out to
because
be a long it yeah, it turned out to be a long-term thing, but yes, I have a quick story. Like someone I know, a very smart woman, and she's a therapist. She met her guy online, and she doesn't do the rules, but it sounds like she has a very happy marriage somehow. Because she didn't like him in the beginning, really, but she did tell me for the first date, she met him online. The first date, she drove to his house. Isn't that crazy? So I in she they live in Germany too. um,
oh yeah, I remember you told me about her.
I don't
Yeah,
know if
so that's the
it
thing. I don't know. Sometimes
Yeah, I don't know
you
if
hear
it's
stories
different
where
there.
girls
Is it
break the
different?
rules. Yeah, and they still work it out. It
I wonder if it's
happens. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, most marriages
maybe
are
she
not
had good
rules.
instincts too.
No, she was
She
lucky.
may have had good
Sorry, this is not
instincts too.
instinct. This is just luck. Lucky
No,
that
you
she
don't
made a
think?
decent man, and it was an actually dangerous endeavor. But I mean, honestly, she was just lucky. Like I was lucky when I, uh, went into a car of a guy
Yeah.
who I just met, literally first time meeting, just went into his car, you know. So I was just lucky. It has nothing to do with instincts. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, you don't think, yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah. Interesting. One thing that in this thing that I think is great is when they talk about, pretend you're making a cameo appearance in a movie. I love that, but to be honest, I find that hard to do, like hard to really feel it. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think about it
Mhm.
and I intellectualize it, but I have a hard time sometimes feeling it because I'm worried about all these things. If I like the guy, I'm worried. I'm worried. Oh God, I got to end the date first. Oh God, I hope he's the one. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I know.
Are
I
you good
actually,
at that though? You might be good at
mm,
some
I
people
got
are good
better
at
at
it.
it, but I was terrible at this in the beginning. Like, I don't know, maybe the first year or two when I started the rules, but I got better at like at this point in life, I'm like, I just want this to be a decent date, nothing more. And this is the attitude that I usually go into. I try to, not always happens, but I try to like feel like, oh God, I hope he's not gonna smack the door in front of my face. I hope he's gonna just, be decent and pay and not be rude. And those, I have very low expectations. I know it's maybe sad to say this, but
Yeah.
if this would be a just decent date where I wouldn't, throw up just by looking at him, I'd be already happy, you know. And I've been blessed with a couple nice dates, but just not with right people. But and so you just do appreciate more when you have a great date with somebody that you actually like, when you had a bunch
Yep.
of like miserable dates, miserable. Where I mean, I had a boy like another terrible story of mine from a date zero. We were set up on a from a matchmaker. It was actually a Jewish matchmaker, so he was vetted as somebody incredibly smart, and he was young. He was 30 something. He was well educated,
Mhm.
had a master's degree, like whatever. You know how matchmakers like praise up their clients, and
Yeah.
he came to my
Yeah.
area to Brooklyn. He picked just a restaurant in my area, and so this boy, I call him boy because this immaturity was just out of a scale. Um, so I arrived at the date. I bought new shoes, cost me $100. I have my hair
Oh, what
straightened.
kind? What kind? What kind? What kind
I
of
was
shoes?
like up to a T with super high heels and like trying to look, cute and sexy.
Oh,
I come in and he is like speechless. I thought, oh, that's a good sign, maybe. I don't know.
really?
And then we're sitting at the table. I mean, it's so embarrassing to even like say that these things happened to me. I didn't even share it with anyone because I was so embarrassed. Like I was like, do I really deserve it? I mean, oh my God. Anyway, so we're sitting at the table. The waiter comes with, with a carafe with full of water, and he starts
Yep.
shooting questions at me. One, two, three, 10 questions. I cannot even catch up to like have a breath. So I asked him whether I can have a glass of water, which is right in front of me, and he's not offering to even pour this glass of water into my glass. Um, so he finally pours a little bit of water. I drink, and he shoots a few more questions, and then he says, "Oh, I'm just gonna go quickly to the bathroom." So he went to the bathroom. He comes back. This is happening everything within 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes max. He comes back from the bathroom and says, it's starting to rain actually, and I think I need to get back to Jersey on time. So I just already paid the waiter for this glass of tap water. And basically,
Oh my.
and so you were all set up, bye. And he just ran out of the restaurant. Okay. He ran, and I was sitting still at the table. The restaurant was, by the way, empty, and people knew me from that restaurant because it was close by. You cannot imagine, Karina,
Yeah.
how embarrassing it was. I never went back to this place ever again because I was just so embarrassed. So, like
Wow.
you think that somebody is smart and educated and should be raised by a nice family, but you cannot vet somebody enough and think this then you will receive a decent treatment. Like you can have terrible dates. That's why whenever I have a nice date, I'm like, oh my god, I'm just happy and
Yeah.
relieved because the rules way
Yeah. Yeah.
is
No,
a
I
hard
know.
way
I've been
to do
on
this.
similar. Yeah, it is. It's hard because, right, we have to weed through. And we cut it off with a band-aid. We weed them out really quicker. Whereas another woman might have just spent the night, spent like hours with the guy, making conversation. You know what I mean? Ordering, like saying, "Oh, can I have a glass of wine?" Or, and
Oh,
then
trying to
they would have maybe
prolong.
drunk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Oh, I've done these
Like other
mistakes. Oh my
women might
god.
have carried it out, but with the rules, we pull. Yeah. So our way is uncomfortable, but it's like pulling off the band-aid faster. You just weeded him out wicked fast. You were maybe quiet, like the rules kind of um instructs to be a little bit quiet, mysterious, and he couldn't handle it. He probably just blew out of there. But whereas if we you weren't doing the rules, you would have made him feel comfortable. You would have probably said, "Oh, I need a glass of wine." He would order a glass of wine. You both would have been drunker, and you know what I mean? Like, and then but then he would have broken up with you anyway, probably. But like, it would have
Exactly.
lasted longer. Whereas our way just cuts it off quick, like ripping a band-aid off quick. It saves
That's
time.
a
Our
thing. That's
even though
exact
it's
thing that
painful.
mm, yeah, exactly. Like you said it's like, if you're not a rules girl, and that's what I have done in my past as well. I thought it's my job to make him, be or feel accommodated or be entertained by me
I
so that
know.
I prize myself up in his eyes by entertaining him, by telling him all the wonderful stories about my life and how special I am and what I have done and how much I traveled and did this and did that, and been I don't know, modeling and trying to praise myself up. And now I don't do this anymore. I'm just sitting in the room
Yeah.
with this person who asked me out, and it's up to God in the universe whether he has that spark or not. And I don't have to do
Right.
anything. I just have to be led by his conversation and have fun. And yes, I can talk to him. I can talk to him about the topic that he started, or like something related. Can I ask him questions? Probably nothing personally. I mean, I can ask him whether his way here was okay. I mean, that's okay. It's just a neutral question, but I don't ask him too many questions. It's more about him being more invested in the date than I am. And if he feels like it's too much work, he will poof. He will not come back.
Yep. Exactly.
All right. I mean, there's so much probably more to talk about it. Let me see what else is here. I mean, we've covered a lot of, yeah, you don't mention the M word, right? We don't talk about marriage, we don't talk about babies, we don't talk about anything that is family in, related, that means like, oh, my sister just got married, or my brother just got engaged, or my parents, they
Yeah.
lost my ex-boyfriend. We don't talk about ex-boyfriends, we don't talk about these things. That anything is relationship related, anything that is future related. I mean, in that sense, I mean, oh, I wish to buy this house in the Hamptons, for example. But it's just, you just don't say these things.
Yeah.
It gives this, it gives him this, maybe he
Yeah.
doesn't want to buy a house in the Hamptons. Just keep it to yourself a little bit. Maybe you're coming from a rich background, and you talk about, your Mercedes present from your father, and he's a poor student. If you want to make it work, don't make him feel like he's nothing or he's worthless. So keep it low, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Don't make him feel insecure.
All right. Should
Yeah,
we
it's
should
true.
we end it, or do you
Um,
have something else interesting from your stories?
sure. Oh God, I know. There's so much. The one thing that I guess I will say is just sometimes it's tricky from a book to get 100% advice because sometimes things do work out, even if you do mention the word marriage. But like, and I don't want to confuse anyone, especially newer rules girls, but like, especially when you don't like a guy, especially in the beginning when you're just not interested, you want to be friends. Like there's some reason he's younger than you, or some women just don't want to date younger guys, so they just treat him like a friend, and they just don't want a relationship. And then they mention they're going to their brother's wedding, and but they're not dating him. They're just maybe running into him at work and blowing him off constantly. You know what I mean? In those situations basically my point is when the guy is gaga over you, like sometimes you can just mention
Yeah,
marriage and do it nonchalantly. Does that make sense? And I'm
totally.
not
Yeah.
advocating women do it, but I've just found when a guy is so into you and you're like, I don't think I really like him, but I'm gonna date him just because there's nothing else going on. That's when like the guy just is crazy. Usually he's crazy about you, and you can kind of mess up a little. And I'm not suggesting you should, but e- little mess ups don't matter because they like you too much, and you're always running away from them anyway. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's the best way if you meet
So
somebody at work, right? So like you have more ground for this courtship thing to happen. But it's also more difficult because you have to be always aware of the situation, right? But I would love to have that because, it keeps the intrigue up, and it's kind of like it's cute love story. It's with the dating online, it's more like you meet up and then you meet up again and hopefully again, and then you kind of progress from there. But if it's work or something interest related, like it's your, sports, tennis, whatever that is,
yeah,
it's kind of like cuter story,
I
I think.
know, I know, I agree. I've always it's always yeah, it's yeah more exciting when it's somebody you meet through school or work or something.
Right.
But we can't really avoid online because a lot of people are meeting that way.
Yeah, so many I know. That's true. All right.
Yeah. Uh,
So
all
we're gonna
right.
end the recording now. Thank you, Karina, for joining me today on this reading. It was definitely helpful, and
Sure.
so many cool things that we mentioned. I hope it's gonna um, help anybody who's listening to it. All right. Bye.
Bye.